What is down, everybody? It's your main course, Little Pancake. Welcome back to another video. Today we are talking about the Sunda flying lemur, a lemur that flies, which is a funny statement about 10 minutes into this video. So before we get into anything, I know what you're thinking. I know exactly what you're thinking. You're thinking, Little Pancake, James, how are you so bright? How are you? The glow is astonishing. Well, it's this little thing called ingenuity. Let me demonstrate. Actually, I just froze my camera. Shit. Just spent 15 minutes getting myself back together. I'm just gonna put a picture of my ingenuity in, because apparently if I move my camera half a freaking millimeter, it just crashes everything. Anyway, the Sunda flying lemur. Let's get into that. Hopefully it's a more joyous topic than my camera and Streamlabs. And my overall competency today, talking about the Sunda flying lemur. Smash like for the Sunda flying lemur. How many times do you think I'm going to say Sunda flying lemur in this episode? Drop a comment of how many times I said Sunda flying lemur. Or don't. I wouldn't if I were you, but, you know, free will. Today we are going to talk about this guy's appearance, taxonomy, diet and habitat, reproduction and behavioral habits, and the protection of it and the hunting of it. I looked the wrong way. Alright, let's start with the appearance of this pretty cool looking, beautiful flying lemur. Let's start with its dimensions. 13 to 17 inches long. So pretty, you know, that's not including the tail. The tail is an extra 7 to 10 inches. Alright, this thing's got a honking of a tail. Alright, tail is almost as long as it is. They weigh about 2 to 3 pounds, which is not very heavy. They actually have a very light skeleton. It's better for them when they're gliding. Things like bats have very light, low density bones that help them to fly. So the light bones help them when they're gliding to not drop as fast. So they only weigh 2 to 3 pounds, even though they look a little bit bigger than that. As for their coloration, their coat, they're mostly gray. There's some like reddish variations in the coat color. And they also oftentimes have little patches of white fur, resemble tree lichen, which is, if you look at a tree, sometimes you see white, like little florets. Is floret even a word? If it is, I have no idea what it means. Those little white splotches on trees are lichen. They're a type of fungi. That's what it kind of resembles, so that they can blend in. They also have very interesting teeth, but they have like comb-like teeth is how it's described. So very like small, thin, chink 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 type of chink 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 chink. You know. All right, now for their gliding mechanisms, they have a membrane that goes. It starts at the neck, goes all the way out to the fingertips, then comes back down and curves and goes all the way out to the toe tips on both sides, of course, and it's actually quite large. When they spread out, they have a wingspan of, hold on, I forgot to convert this into standard. It's 30 to 40 centimeters, 11.8 inches to 15.7 inches. So that's a pretty wide wingspan. I mean, you think about it, that's longer. That's about as long as them, you know. So like when they're full spread eagle, you know what I mean? They're almost like a square, not counting their tail, of course. So the skin that they use to glide, kind of like kite shaped is how it's described. It's actually covered in fur. It's called a patagium. I don't know how to pronounce that, but they also have a dorsiflexed and abducted foot. Well, all of their feet are dorsiflexed and abducted. Helps them climb, you know, helps them get to the tippy tops of the tree. Now let's look a little bit at the taxonomy of the Sunda flying lemur. It's not a lemur. I know. You're heartbroken. I'll give you a second. That second is up. Let's move on. There are two different kind of forms, morphological like variations of Sunda lemurs. There are large Sunda lemurs. I did this backwards. There are dwarf Sunda lemurs, which are about 20 times smaller than the large Sunda lemurs, and they are located in central Laos, is the only place that they are found. There are also 4 subspecies of Sunda flying lemur. So subspecies is they're not quite different enough to be different species, but they have differences. Variegatus, which is found in Java. Timiniki, which is found in Sumatra. Borneanus, which is found in Borneo. And Peninsulae, which is found mostly on the mainland, the motherland. Its scientific name is, I forgot to say this at the beginning because everything fell apart, but its scientific name is Galeopteris variegatus. Now let's move to the diet and habitat. Where are you going to find these things? And when you do find them, what are they going to be munching on? So you're going to find them in Southeast Asia. That's their main hangout. All right, that's like Krispy Kreme for me. You know, that's where I spend most of my time. That's not a factual statement, but I wish it was a factual statement. I love donuts. Anyway, so places like Myanmar, Thailand, I was this close to saying Thailand just from reading it. That would have been embarrassing. Vietnam, Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia. These are just a few examples of the kind of area that the Sunda flying lemur inhabits. Now, what do they eat? So they feed mostly on softer plants. They can't digest the harder plants quite as easily. So this includes things like young plants, like young leaves, shoots, flowers, fruit. Eat a lot of fruit. Due to the kind of restrictions of their diet, they kind of have a hard time going to a variety of places. So places you're going to find these other than their natural habitat of rainforest area. You can find them in gardens, large gardens, fruit orchards, rubber and coconut plantations, and some mountainous areas, but these places can't support large populations of the Sunda flying lemur, so you'll just find one here and there, whereas the rainforest can have very large populations. Another cool thing is they have been documented licking tree bark. They would be doing this to get some minerals, some nutrients. A lot of animals will actually lick the ground, but you may have seen it before, you may not. But some, I know, like white-tailed deer here in America will lick the ground to get the kinds of nutrients and minerals and things like electrolytes. So that's what they eat. Now, what eats them? Well, a lot of birds, actually, which is kind of surprising. So eagles, macaws, and owls are the 3 big birds that feast on the Sunda flying lemur, and also pythons, which is not great. I feel like pythons aren't really good for most animals on that side of the food chain, but so that's where. Now, moving to their reproduction and behavior. Now, this is when we're going to really talk about their flying habits. They don't fly. So yes, the Sunda flying lemur is not a lemur, and it doesn't fly. The scientists hit the jackpot when naming this bad boy. But just like a lot of animals that are called flying blank, they glide. Just like a flying squirrel, flying snakes, which we covered previously on the channel. Go check that video out. Shout out. They don't fly, they glide, but they do glide very well. They are actually the best at gliding of any mammal. So like sugar gliders, flying squirrels, things like that. They're better. The Sunda flying lemur is better. He's stronger. It's faster. It's just better. Smarter. I forgot that one. But same point stands. They can glide over 100 meters, over 325 feet in a single glide. So they can cover an entire football field, an American football field, in one glide, one leap. And the coolest thing about this is that they can do this and drop less than 10 meters, which is less than 30 feet, which is a huaga huaga. Very impressive. They can also maneuver while they're gliding, so they can navigate. So they can start out, they can go, yo, whoosh, and then they can just like turn and veer to the left and veer to the right and do the cha-cha slide mid-air, which is wild. However, if it is raining heavily or very windy, not great for gliding conditions, to be honest. Also, gliding short distances is actually harder for them than gliding long distances. So the way they do it is they take off, they glide, and then when they're going in for the landing, they can kind of like brake, you know. So you think about it, you're gliding down, you can kind of pick up, and the wind will catch you, and you'll kind of. Hold on, that wasn't in frame at all. You can kind of. You know what I mean? On the longer glides, it's a lot easier to do that than on a short little, 30-foot tree hop. So, there's that. And this comes in real handy because they are very bad on the ground. So, they are strictly arboreal, which means they only live in the trees. So, they are not on the ground at all, if they can help it. You know, if you fall, things aren't looking good for you. If you're a Sunda flying lemur, really not good when they're on the ground. They are really good climbers though. So like they can scurry up a tree like nothing. Like me scurrying to a Krispy Kreme. Man, I love Krispy Kreme. Anyway, so as for their kind of socialness, they're very solitary. They can be found in kind of spread out communities, but they spend the majority of their time isolated from other Sunda flying lemur. But, you know, just like any other species, they gotta get busy at some point. So something very interesting, they actually mate at any time of the year. So they don't have a specific mating season, they can just link up. The mother has a 60-day gestation period. So from the time of the ooh-ooh to the time of the ooh-ooh is only 2 months. They usually give birth to a single offspring. Twins are rare, but they do happen every now and then. And this offspring is carried in the mother's pouch. Now, the Sunda flying lemur is not a marsupial. This pouch is more of kind of like a skin flap that they kind of just tuck them in, you know? Just like, hey, stay there. And they're there for 6 months before they become independent and are weaned off of their mother. And it takes them quite a while to become sexually mature. They don't do this for 3 years until they can start making babies of their own. So the lifespan of the Sunda flying lemur is not really known in the wild. They haven't really been documented enough. The average lifespan in captivity is about 15 years. And the oldest Sunda flying lemur ever recorded in captivity was 17 and a half years old. Oh, and they also have very good eyesight, which I guess is good if you're flying for far distances. You kind of got to be able to see where you're going. You know, it's kind of important. They're also nocturnal. I said that at the wrong time. Mostly only spend time doing things during the night. During the day, they kind of hide away in thickets of trees and brush. But at night, they get going. And they don't stop until morning. So that's pretty much all I got for reproduction and behavior. They're not much is known about the species. As for the protection of them, they are protected by national legislations. They are not endangered. They're categorized in the least concern section of endangerment. But this is looking like it might change due to things like habitat loss and increased competition by other squirrels and other animals that eat the same food as them. So their numbers are decreasing slowly, but not too fast. They are also hunted by locals. When I say locals, I don't mean like the guy who runs the barbecue shop down the street. I mean like people in tribes hunting with spears. They still hunt the Sunda flying lemur for meat and fur, which a Sunda flying lemur scarf would go kinda hard. That was a joke. Don't kill lemurs, especially ones that aren't actually lemurs. that's about all I got for you today, ladies and gentlemen. That's the Sunda lemur. Really cool, really pretty animal, and hopefully it stays healthy and humans don't destroy too much of its habitat, and they can stay around for a while. Maybe your kids can pet a Sunda flying lemur one day. I would actually probably advise not petting it. You saw those teeth. Thank you guys so much for watching. As usual, the links of all of my sources are in the description of this video. So if you wanna double check me, or you wanna look at some more pictures and learn more, I didn't leave very many facts out, but there's a few that I didn't find necessary. So you can check those out. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have an absolutely wonderful rest of your day, and I will see all y'all later.